Hi, and welcome everybody to the 9/8/2014 webinar series. Thank you all for joining us. Caroline Cardona, Congress and Exhibition Project Manager at the International AIDS Society, will walk you through the volunteer application process and the selection priorities to volunteer at the 20th International AIDS Conference. To allow all the attendees to hear the presenter, please do not unmute yourself. Your questions will be addressed at the end of the presentation. Caroline?
Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, depending on where in the world you are at the moment. For me, it's the morning. I'm based in Geneva. My name is Caroline, as Tamara just said, and I'm very pleased to introduce you to the volunteer program, which we opened 3 days ago and has been already very successful. So just to give you a little bit of an introduction about the volunteer program and the conference, this year we're expecting 14,000 delegates from nearly 200 countries in the world, and we are including 1,200 journalists. This is the first time the International AIDS Conference will be held in Australia, and we are definitely very excited about it. The AIDS 2014 program will be strongly focused on new scientific knowledge and will offer many opportunities for dialogue on the major issues facing the global responses to HIV and AIDS. We have, other than regular activities for the International AIDS Conferences, we've got more activities, which are the Global Village. We have satellite meetings, exhibition, and affiliated events. All of those activities for the conference will need considerably amount of volunteers, and this is where we will request and we schedule pretty much everyone who will be part of the program. So who are the volunteers? Well, usually the volunteers are students, most of them, depending where in the country we are. But the majority of them are really students with a background in medicine, pharmacy, social science, nurses as well. We've got a lot of international relations, language schools as well. We have also a good amount of people who are actually retired and they just want to give a hand during the event. We've got people from communities, we have both scouts, churches, associations, and also NGOs or faith organizations as well. So what are the conditions to be accepted? So first of all, you need to be more than 18 years old the first day you start your shift. So if your shifts will start on the 16th or 17th of July 2014, you need to be 18 years old for that day. You need to be available for a minimum of 3 conference days, although we actually prefer the people who can stay longer, so we just avoid training new volunteers every day. So basically, volunteers who can commit the entire period from the 16th of July to the 25th, those are the ones who will be given priority. We need approximately 1,000 volunteers. Just to let you know, today we're the 3rd of April, and we have received approximately 600 applications so far. So since we need 1,000 volunteers, I believe we will close the applications very soon, since we close the application form once we have reached the number of people we need. So what are the activities? We have plenty of activities, very exciting ones. The first one that volunteers usually start, and for this one, many volunteers are scheduled for, and this takes place on the 16th and 17th of July. It's the backpacking. So basically, we have a lot of inserts within the conference bag, and we need a lot of volunteers to just pack the bags. We usually schedule approximately 200 to 300 volunteers per shift for the backpacking, and it's actually very cool because volunteers just get to know each other. This is the first activity. We put some music, we dance around the bags, and it's really nice. And it's always a very nice atmosphere and a good activity to start actually the conference with. The second activity we have, and we schedule a lot of people as well for this one, especially the first day of the conference, is the registration area. So as you know, we're expecting 14,000 delegates, and all of those delegates, we have to go to the registration area to get their badge and get their bag as well. So we need a lot of volunteers there to just help with the flow of delegates within the area, give them a hand, giving them the badge and giving them the bag as well, helping the hostesses who'll be actually handling the money and all those things. The material handling is exactly what I'm saying. It's usually giving all the conference materials. It could be the bag, it could be the badges, it could be also the abstract book, and all the material delegates should have and should receive within the registration area. Then all during the week of the conference, we have plenty of volunteers doing traffic flow and entrance control. So traffic flow is actually channeling delegates everywhere in the venue. I don't know if you're familiar with the Melbourne Convention and Exhibition Center, but it's quite a big venue, and we need a lot of people all around just to tell delegates where to go if they're kind of lost. Also, we have volunteers doing entrance control. So those are the volunteers who will be at the points of control where we scan actually the badges of the delegates to allow them to enter into the conference. We have volunteers in the media and speaker center. Usually what they do is that they help journalists and speakers with the computers, with translations, interpretations, doing some copies and other things. We have many volunteers as well in the session room and mini rooms. So we have 6 session rooms and 6 mini rooms. Most of them are approximately for, I would say, the biggest one is for 6,000 people, and then the smallest one, which are the mini rooms, are approximately for 300 people. We need volunteers inside the rooms, but also outside the rooms, just checking that delegates are allowed to enter into the session, and inside the room to welcome delegates and to help the speakers and the chairs with the name tag, the water, and just like telling delegates to go and sit in front of the session. We have plenty of volunteers doing general assistance. So those are our pool of volunteers who actually run everywhere within the venue, and they're trying to actually do the best they can. They will fill in positions that are just like last-minute positions or people who couldn't make it, so they will replace those people. And then we have also a lot of volunteers in the Global Village and in the exhibition as well. Those volunteers will help exhibitors, Global Village exhibitors, and also commercial exhibitors to handle material, to help their with their booth. They will also be channeling delegates all inside the area, and basically they will help whenever it's needed. In terms of the scheduling, we have 1 shift per day. It's either in the morning or in the afternoon. You cannot do 2 shifts per day just because we want volunteers to enjoy at least half of the day and they can enjoy the conference. So basically, if you're scheduled for the morning, then you'll be free in the afternoon and vice versa. We have a volunteer training after the kickoff meeting. The kickoff meeting, I would just talk about that later in the next slide, I believe. So what about the benefits? Well, volunteers, I would say the biggest benefits they have is that they have free access to sessions when they are not on duty. So just as I said, if you're scheduled for the whole week between the 20th and the 25th of July, and let's say you're scheduled for the whole morning every time, well, then you get the whole afternoon to enjoy and go to sessions. The only thing we ask volunteers to do is to give priority to delegates if a session is overcrowded. Volunteers will receive a lunch per day if they're scheduled for a shift. If you're just enjoying the conference for the day and you were not scheduled at all for the day, then you don't have a lunch, but you can definitely go to the conference and enjoy yourself. They'll receive a certificate of appreciation. They have a nice international experience. And of course, they'll have a volunteer t-shirt, which they need to wear during the shift, so they get easily recognized. Another part of the volunteer program is the supervisor role. This is very specific for volunteers who can commit to the entire time of the conference, and they want to have a more substantial role to the volunteer program. Basically, the supervisors would be the middleman between the IES management volunteer department and the volunteer itself. We have approximately 1,000 volunteers on site per day, which means that we have 500 in the morning and pretty much 500 in the afternoon. We, on the management side, we cannot talk to every single volunteer. So we need the supervisors to be in between and to coordinate teams of between 15 and 20 volunteers. What the supervisor does, they basically check the presence of the volunteer, although the volunteer is requested to go every day to the volunteer area to check in and check out. They will control the break times and performances. They will cover and back up the volunteer if needed, and they will assist the volunteer if the volunteer is facing any critical issue. We have a supervisor's interviews. Those are face-to-face interviews, and that will take place in Melbourne. This will take place from the 7th to the 12th of May. So it will be next month already. And if you are interested, you're free to just apply online. When you apply as a volunteer, there is a special section where we ask if you want to be a supervisor, and we ask what experience you have. We will consider the supervisors who can commit for the entire period and who have an interesting profile, and we will call them for an interview in May. In terms of the timeline, well, we already opened applications. So we opened 3 days ago, and as I say, we are already reaching actually capacity for the program. We will start actually selecting the volunteers from May 2014, so next month. We will tell volunteers if they have been accepted into the program or not. So basically, for those of you who have already registered, you receive an automatically email saying that you have been registered successfully. But this doesn't mean that you have been selected. You will receive another email saying that you have been selected, and this will be done in May once we have revised the profile you have and also the availability. In June and July, we will send all schedules. This takes a little bit of time, just so we need to make sure all the scheduling activities are in our system and matches with your availability. So we have a volunteer portal, and all of those will be selected into the volunteer program. We'll get to know a little bit more about the volunteer portal. We are requesting volunteers to collect the badge and t-shirts either on Wednesday the 16th of July, Thursday 17th of July, or Friday 18th of July. This needs to be done before the kickoff meeting and the training, which is mandatory. And that will take place on Friday 18th July at 1:45. Apologize, it says 35, but it should be 45. The kickoff meeting is mandatory again, and it will take place at the Melbourne Convention and Exhibition Centre. This meeting gives a lot of information about the conference itself, such as the conference program, the key speakers, the security issues, the allocation of rooms, and also it gives a lot of information about the volunteer role during the conference. So how to volunteer? You just need to sign up online. We have the application form already on our webpage. You can also contact us at volunteer@aids2014.org, or we have a Facebook group that you can follow, which is called AIDS 2014 Volunteers. The Twitter account has been actually linked to the IES one, so all the information that you will find on Twitter will be exactly the same as the one for the conference. So we recommend you to follow our Facebook group, which is where you're going to have the latest information, as well as on our webpage. So I have put some pictures of some key people who actually come to the conference, and we have had many very interesting personalities such as Whoopi Goldberg, Ban Ki-moon, Sharon Stone, Elton John. We cannot discuss who's going to come this year, but we might have some interesting celebrities, and I'm sure this is going to be a successful conference thanks to the volunteer program, which is already going to be, I feel, very, very great. So thank you very much for listening, and I'm open to any question you may have. Please just go. Tom?
Yeah, so if you have any question, you can use the raise hand button you have on your right, or you can chat to IS Webinar or to Caroline directly. And then we will make sure to read the question and to reply. Any question? So it seems like everything was pretty clear. Oh, no, there's one person, Mbondi, Suzanne. Mbondi, Suzanne. Hello? Marina, do you have any question? Oh, yeah. So, Caroline, how long are the shifts?
So this is a very good question. Shifts are actually would depend on the activity you have, but there are approximately 6 to 7 hours shift. And it could start as early as 6:30 a.m. in the morning for the shift that takes place in the morning, and it could last up to 9 p.m. in the evening for the shifts in the afternoon. So it really depends on the activity you'll be scheduled for, but it's an average of 6 to 7 hours. Sometimes it could even be 8 hours.
Thank you, Caroline. Biodun, any question?
Yep. Thank you for the explanation. I really appreciate it. Please, I want to know if there's any possibility, like if you already sign up to be a volunteer, and maybe you apply as well for scholarship. Is there any? Because what I understood so far from the explanation on the website is that you are not entitled to any kind of financial something like, that kind of thing. So I want to know, like, because likewise for myself, I'm waiting for the outcome of the scholarship or notification, that kind of thing. So I would just want to know if there's any possibility, like if I get a scholarship, then I can see application or something like that. Because the outcome of the scholarship will ultimately determine my availability.
So there are a couple of questions you're asking, and I can actually answer all. But if you have applied for a scholarship, you of course will need to wait until you get a scholarship response.
Okay.
We have had many cases in the past where actually successful scholarship recipients have also take part of the volunteer program just because they really wanted to help and take part of the conference other than as a regular delegate. So you can do both. Then if you happen to not be successful for the scholarship program, then you'll be depending on the availability you have. And if you're accepted as a volunteer, then you'll be welcome to the volunteer program. Although, as you said, if you're based outside of Melbourne, we cannot help with any financial assistance. So we cannot even help with letter of invitation. We don't have any budget to help volunteers to fly them in or to give them accommodation. So that's basically the only issue I would see. But if you can make yourself to Melbourne, and you have a great availability, you're definitely you get your chances to be accepted as a volunteer, and then you will not need to pay for the registration fee, at least for the conference, and you can take part of the volunteer program and enjoy.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And to add on this, I am in charge of the scholarship program actually, and you will receive a notification in a couple of weeks.
Okay, thank you. Because actually I've already sent an email. I sent an email, but I've not received any kind of reply. So that's why I'm bringing this issue.
Okay. Okay. Caroline, I have another question for a person that actually joined the webinar quite late. So can you please repeat why volunteers are, why you need volunteers before the conference?
Okay. So we have one of the biggest activities we have at the very beginning of the conference actually is the backpacking. So the backpacking is all the bags, the conference bag that needs to be stuffed with inserts. So usually they're flyers, highlighters, pen, notepads. And we have approximately 14,000 bags that we need to stuff with. And the first activity of the volunteer program usually is the backpacking. And this takes place on the 16th, 17th, and maybe 18th of July in the morning if we haven't finalized the backpacking on the 17th in the afternoon. Then we need a lot of volunteers as well for the registration on the 19th, which is actually one day before the conference really starts. And sometimes we also have volunteers helping with pre-conference activities. So there's a lot of activity actually before the real start of the conference, just because volunteers will help with the planning as well and the preparation of the start and of the conference, of course.
Thanks. I also received another question in the chat. So will volunteers be able to review the shifts, and how do they do that?
Sure. So when we send out the schedules in June, volunteers actually will need to log into their volunteer portal. The volunteer portal is a tool, it's an interface online that will show them the schedule they have been assigned for. If they cannot make it to a shift or they don't like the activity, they can actually turn the shift off, and then we can reschedule and reconsider the timetable. So there is a little bit of a work, and usually we give you a first draft of timetable of the conference of what your schedule is going to be, and if you cannot make it or if you don't really like it, then we can work with you to change it through the volunteer portal.
Okay, I think it's clear. I have other questions actually coming from the chat. So the first one is, if my availability is uncertain between the 16th and 18th of July for assisting with volunteering, is there any way to indicate this on the application?
Yes, well, if you think you're going to be available, I would recommend that you put your availability as yes, you'll be there. Then if you realize that you can't make it at the time we're doing the scheduling, then you can just reject the shift through the volunteer portal or just send us an email.
Okay, and again, related to the availability, if someone already applied and I assume finalize the application form, is there any way that they can review their availability?
Well, if they want to change it, they can just send an email to volunteer@ace2014.org, and then we will make the change on our back office before we actually start the selection. So if you notice that you have more availability or less availability once you have applied, just send us an email so we just review that, and then we make sure that we've got the right data before actually going through the selection process next month.
Okay, last question for the moment is a person from India can volunteer?
Sure, everyone can volunteer. Everyone is welcome to the program. The only thing, again, that needs to be clear, unfortunately, is that we don't have any budget to have volunteers to come to Melbourne. So if you're happy to cover your cost for the flights, the accommodation, then we're happy to let you in the volunteer program and to give you the lunch per day if you're scheduled for the day, and give you access to the session with throughout the program. So yeah, definitely.
Murray, do you have a question? What kind of lunch is provided?
Well, it's always good. I can't say right now. We're working on the logistics for that, but we have a different menu every day, and we have included a vegetarian option as well.
Nick, any question?
I'm just wondering, are you able to assist with some sort of documentation for our employers in acquiring the leave for the entire period?
Can you repeat, please?
Are you able to assist in some sort of documentation to provide to employers in getting the leave for that period?
Yes, we have done that in the past. If the certificate of appreciation is not enough, we can send an email or create a template for you to justify the shifts you've been at the conference, and we can work on that with you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I don't see any other hands. So I assume that we can close here. And I take advantage of this little time that we have to promote the next webinar, which will take place on Thursday, the 8th of May at 3 p.m. GMT. You all know how to sign up. And the topic will be Take the Conference to Your Community, Host a Hub. So just for your information, the recording and also the presentation will be available online on the webinar webpage of the conference website in a couple of days. So, oh, I have another question. Sorry, Caroline. Is the kickoff meeting from 1:45 p.m. to 4:30 p.m.? Yes. Or are there various shifts for that as the kickoff?
No. The kickoff meeting will take place on the Friday, 18th of July from 1:45 to 4:30. And that's
And then
for
there will
everyone.
be a separate training, right?
Yeah, that includes the training.
Okay. Okay. So I think that's it. If you have any other question or doubts, do follow up with Caroline at the email address she provided, so volunteer@AIDS2014.org. And thank you again for joining us. And Caroline, thank you for the presentation.
Thank you, everyone, for your time. Thank you, Tamara.
Bye.
Bye-bye.